side. This is Pack 365. Myself Sreja. So today in this session you are going to learn about the anatomy of female reproductive system. So in this session you are going to learn about what is female reproductive system and what are the parts of this female reproductive system clearly. So the first is introduction to female reproductive system. So the female reproductive system, it is a group of organs that help a woman to produce eggs, get pregnant and to carry a baby and also breastfeed. So it also controls the important body changes during puberty, the menstrual cycle and pregnancy. So what are the main purpose of the female reproductive system? So the system performs four main jobs. It makes female gametes like eggs or ova. So the ovary produces eggs just like the testicles make sperm in the males. So it supports the fertilization, like the fertilization is when a sperm meets an egg usually in the fallopian tube. So it helps the baby to grow. The uterus holds and nourishes the fetus during the pregnancy. And this female reproductive system, it also enables the childbirth and lactation. Like the uterus helps deliver the baby and breast produce milk for feeding. So what is the cyclic nature of the system? So unlike males who make sperm continuously, the female system works in monthly cycles controlled by the hormones. So these cycles, they include the egg release, nothing but ovulation, preparation of the uterus for pregnancy, menstruation if the pregnancy does not happen, and this monthly cycle, it prepares the body for a possible pregnancy every month. Okay, so what are the main organs of the female reproductive system? So there are internal organs as well as external organs. So the internal organs are ovaries, which makes eggs, produce hormones like estrogen and progesterone. And fallopian tubes, they carry the egg from the ovary to the uterus. This is the place where fertilization takes place. And uterus, it is also called as womb. So it is a muscular organ where the baby grows. And the vagina, the canal that connects the uterus to the outside. So this is used during the childbirth and also during the sexual intercourse. So what are the external organs of the female reproductive system? Vulva, which includes labia majora and labia minora, clitoris and vaginal opening. So this protect the internal organs and they help in the sexual activity. So what is the axillary organ of the female reproductive system? They are called as the breast, because breast produce milk after the childbirth. So these are important for feeding and also bonding with the newborn. So these are the organs of the female reproductive system. So now what are the functions of the reproductive system? So these organs, they work together to produce the eggs, to regulate the menstrual cycle, to release the hormones like estrogen and progesterone. It supports the sexual activity, it enables the pregnancy and also it enables the breastfeeding. So what is the major role of the system throughout your life? So the female reproductive system, it influences the puberty, nothing but development of breast, wider hips and also the menstruation begins. So it influences the reproductive years like regular cycles and fertility cycle, pregnancy which hormones support baby growth and menopause where the menstruation stops and hormone levels falls. So this is a major role by the system in the human life. So in the next slide, there are the pictures of the female reproductive system. So this diagram shows the female reproductive organs from two views. So the one which is the left side, it shows the frontal or anterior view of the system. Whereas the right image, it is a side view. It is a sagittal section of the female reproductive system. So in this, you can see the ovaries. A girl is born with around 1 to million immature eggs, but only about 4 to 500 are released in their lifetime. And you can also see the fallopian tubes here. This is each ovary is connected to the uterus by a fallopian tube. And the egg travels to the tube for 3 to 4 days before entering the uterus. And this part is the uterus. It is a uterine cavity. So the uterus is a hollow muscular organ where the baby develops. And there are parts of the fallopian tube like the fundus. This is the part of the uterus, fundus of the uterus, uterine cavity and also the cervix. Cervix is located between uterus and vagina. So next is the vagina, the last part. This is a muscular canal connecting the cervix to the outside. So this allows the menstrual flow, the sexual intercourse and also it serves as the birth canal. So the vagina is normally folded and it can stretch a lot during the childbirth. And you can also see the external genitalia. In this picture, in the right side picture, the labium majus, which is the outer fold, and labium minus, which is the inner fold. So this protects the inner organs and surrounds the vaginal and urethral openings. And you can see this clitoris, which is a sensitive organ involved in the sexual arousal. And you can also see the greater vestibular glands, which produces a lubrication during the sexual activity. And there are the pouches, recto-uterine pouches. So this shows two important spaces, the recto-uterine pouch and vesico-uterine pouch. So this vesico-uterine pouch is a space between the bladder and the uterus, whereas the recto-uterine pouch, this is a space between uterus and rectum. So this is a common place for the fluid collection. So this is about this diagrams of the female reproductive system. So next, coming to internal female genital organs. So now let's discuss about each and every organ of the system briefly. So what I said you, internal female genital organs, they involve the ovaries, uterine tubes, nothing but the fallopian tubes, uterus and vagina. So in this slide, you are going to learn about ovaries. So what are ovaries? There are two ovaries, one on the right side and one on the left side. So they are located on the lateral sides of the pelvis. So each ovary, it lies in a space called as ovarian fossa. So ovarian fossa, it is positioned above the ureter and below the external iliac artery. So what is the shape and size of the ovary? So it is an almond shape, just like an almond. So it is about 3 cm long, 1.5 cm wide and 1 cm thick. So they are small, but they are very important organs of this system. So what are the functions of the ovaries? So ovaries have two major functions. So the one is producing ova, eggs, and the other is producing hormones. So producing eggs means every month one ovary releases one egg during the ovulation. So girls are born with all the eggs they will ever have. So it also produces hormones, like it produces estrogen. What does estrogen do? It controls the female body future's menstrual cycle. And progesterone, it prepares the uterus for pregnancy. So here is a diagram of the ovary, the inside structure of the ovary and the stages of the follicle development. So you can see the primordial follicles. So these are present from the birth, very tiny, and each contains an immature egg. So next is primary follicles and secondary follicles. This is a primary follicle, secondary follicle. So during puberty, some follicles start growing. So hormones help them develop. And next is antral follicle here, which is called as a tertiary follicle. So a fluid-filled space called as antrum forms over here. And then is the mature pre-ovulatory or Graafian follicle. So what is pre-ovulatory follicle? This is a final stage before the ovulation. It contains the oocyte which is ready to be released. And then ovulation. So what is ovulation? The mature follicle bursts and releases the egg. And then corpus luteum. Over here you can see. So after ovulation, the empty follicle changes into the corpus luteum. This yellow color, the large one. This is the corpus luteum. So this produces the progesterone hormone. So next is the corpus albicans. So what is corpus albicans? If pregnancy does not occur, the corpus luteum, it degenerates into a white scar called as the corpus albicans. So this is about this picture of the ovaries. So next, surfaces, borders and poles of the ovary. So what are the surfaces? So medial surface, lateral surface, helium and poles. So medial surface, it faces the uterus. So lateral surface, it faces the pelvic wall. So lateral means sidewise. So helium. So helium, it's a small depression where the blood vessels, lymphatics and nerves enter the ovary. So similar to the doorway of the ovary, it connects to the mesovarium. So what are the poles? The upper pole, which is called as tubal end. This is located near the fallopian tube, and lower pole, which is at the uterine end near the uterus. So what are the ligaments of the ovary? So these ligaments are very, very important. So these ligaments, they support the ovary and they help in holding it in the place. So the first is the suspensory ligament of the ovary. So this attaches the ovary to the pelvic wall. Right. This carries the ovarian blood vessels. So easy to remember it. It suspends the ovary as well as the vessels. And the second ligament is ovarian ligament. It connects the ovary to the side of the uterus. It keeps the ovary close to the uterus. Ovary is nothing but uterus link. So the third ligament is mesovarium. It is a part of the broad ligament. So it holds the ovary in place from the above. It contains part of the ovary's blood supply. So together, these ligaments prevent the ovary from moving too much inside the pelvic activity. So what are the microscopic structure of the ovary? So the ovary has four main layers from outside to inside. So in the before picture, you can see the structures of the ovary. So it has the germinal epithelium, tunica albuginea, cortex as well as medulla. So what is germinal epithelium? It is the outermost layer. So despite its name, it does not make eggs but is a common misconception. So the second structure is tunica albuginea, which is a tough white protective layer beneath the epithelium. So this tunica albuginea gives the ovary its shape. And the third structure is cortex, which is the most important part. So it contains the follicles at different stages. Like it contains the primordial follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, as well as the mature or grafted follicle. These follicles I have shown you in the previous slide. So cortex, this is a place where ovulation takes place, and the cortex is called as the egg producing zone. So next is medulla. So this is the inner region. It contains loose connective tissue, blood vessels, lymphatics as well as nerves. So medulla is called as support and supply center. So this is about ovary. The second part is uterine or the fallopian tubes. So what are fallopian tubes? So these tubes are two narrow tubes that connect the ovaries to the uterus. So the main job is to pick up the egg, allow fertilization and also carry the fertilized egg to the uterus. So what is the main function of the fallopian tubes? They conduct the egg from the ovary to the uterus. So they are the usual site of the fertilization where the egg meets sperm here. So what is the length of these tubes? Each tube is about 10 to 12 centimeter long, which is similar to a length of a finger. So what are the parts of the uterine tube from outside to inside? The first part is infundibulum, which is a funnel shaped end near the ovary. So this infundibulum, it has fimbriae, which are finger-like structures or finger-like projections. So they sweep the egg into the tube after the ovulation. So the second part is ampulla, which is the widest and longest part of the tube. So this is the most important part because this is the site of the fertilization. So mostly pregnancies begin here. And next part is isthmus. So isthmus, it is a narrow and straight segment. So it connects the ampulla to the uterus. It has a strong muscle which helps to push the egg towards the uterus. And the fourth part is intramural, is also called as the interstitial part. So this part that passes through the wall of the uterus, it opens into the uterine cavity. So this part is tiny but it is very important, right? So blockage here, it can cause the infertility. So these are parts of the fallopian tubes. Now what are the layers of the fallopian tube? Mucosa, muscularis and serosa. So mucosa, it is lined by the ciliated epithelium. So cilia is nothing but a tiny hair-like structures which move the egg towards the uterus. So this mucosa, it also contains the secretory cells that nourishes the sperm and egg. So hormones affect cilia movement, which is the fastest around the ovulation. And second layer is muscularis, which has two muscle layers, circular muscle and longitudinal muscle. So this causes the peristaltic contractions, which create the gentle squeezing movements. So this muscularis, it helps to move the egg and also sperm inside the tube. And serosa, it is the outer covering made up of peritoneum. It is a smooth surface that reduces the friction. So here is a picture showing the parts of the fallopian tubes. So this is ampulla, isthmus, infundibulum and the intramural or interstitial. This is the ovary and these are the fimbriae, which is finger-like projections over here. And the blood supply, the uterine tube has dual blood supply, ovarian artery and uterine artery. So you can clearly see in this ovarian ligament and bone ligament in this picture. So dual supply of this blood ensures proper function and healing. So this is about the fallopian tubes. So next is uterus. So uterus is also called as womb. So this is a major female reproductive organ where the fertilized egg implants, the baby develops and labor happens during the childbirth. So uterus, it is a hollow muscular pear-shaped organ. So where it is located, like where it is placed, the uterus is located in the middle of the pelvis. So in front anteriorly to the bladder and behind posteriorly to the rectum. So just think of the uterus sitting sandwiched between the bladder and the rectum. And what is the shape and size of the uterus? So it is a pear-shaped organ which is broad at the top and narrow at the bottom. And the length is 7 to 8 centimeter long. Width is 5 centimeter. And thickness is about 2.5 centimeter thick. So the weight of the uterus in the non-pregnant woman is 50 to 100 grams. So during pregnancy, the uterus enlarges up to 1000 grams or more to hold the baby. So it depends upon the weight of the baby. Okay. So what are the parts of the uterus now? Fundus, body, isthmus and cervix. So what is fundus? It is a topmost rounded dome-shaped part. So this is located above the openings of the uterine tubes. So doctors feel the fundal height during pregnancy to check the fetal growth. So what is body? It is the main central part of the uterus. So it is the largest portion. This is where the endometrium or the inner lining thickens every month. So if pregnancy occurs, the embryo implants within here, within the body of the uterus. And the third part is isthmus. So this is a narrow region between the body and cervix. It is also called as the lower uterine segment during the pregnancy. So during labor, this part becomes thin and it stretches. And the fourth part is cervix. So this is the lower cylindrical part of the uterus. It is about 2.5 centimeter long. And cervix, it acts as a gateway between the uterus and vagina. So the cervix has three parts again. Supravaginal part, which is the part above the vagina, and vaginal part, which part that projects into the vagina, and external OS, it's the opening of the cervix into the vagina. It looks like a small circular hole in women who haven't delivered. So it becomes a slit-like after the childbirth. So the cervix produces mucus that changes during the menstrual cycle. So thick mucus means it prevents the sperm entry. Thin mucus means it allows the sperm to pass during the ovulation. And next is internal OS. Internal OS, it's the upper opening of the cervix. So it connects the cervical canal to the uterine cavity. So you have to think of this like a doorway between the cervix and uterus. Now what are the layers of the uterine wall? You have learnt about the structure and the parts of the uterus. Now layers of the uterine wall. So the outer layer perimetrium, the middle layer myometrium and the inner layer endometrium. So perimetrium, it is the outermost covering. It is made up of the serous membrane like a thin smooth skin. So the function of this perimetrium is protection of the uterus. So similar to a plastic cover protecting the organ. And the second layer is myometrium, which is a middle layer. So it is the thickest layer which is made up of smooth muscle. It contains three types of muscle fibers: longitudinal, circular and oblique. So these multi-direction muscles, they make the uterus very strong. So what are the functions of the myometrium? It contracts during the labor to push the baby out. It contracts during the menstruation to help the shedding the lining. This is why the women feel period cramps, the muscles contracting. Because of the muscle contraction, women feel period cramps. So next is endometrium, which is the inner layer. So this inner layer of the uterus, it has two layers again. The basal layer, which is the permanent layer, and the functional layer. So basal layer, it is always present. It regenerates the endometrium after each menstrual cycle. And functional layer, it gets thicker every month due to hormones. So this layer, it's shed during the menstruation if pregnancy does not occur. So if a fertilized egg arrives, it implants in its functional layer. So now what is the position of the uterus? So uterus, it is normally tilted forward, like this is normal and healthy. If it is anteverted, the uterus tilts forward in the cervix. It forms about 90 degrees angle with the vagina. So you have to imagine the uterus leaning towards the bladder. If it is anti-flexed position, it bends forward on the itself at the isthmus. So it creates about 125 degree angle. So you have to think of this as a uterus being curved like a banana. So most women have an anteverted and both anteflexed uterus. So what are the supports of the uterus? So uterus, it is held in place by muscles and ligaments. So what are the primary supports? The most important are pelvic diaphragm as well as endopelvic fascia. So pelvic diaphragm, it includes the levator ani muscles. So it acts like a hammock supporting the uterus from below. So if it is weak, it leads to uterine prolapse. And the endopelvic fascia means it includes strong ligaments like cardinal and uterosacral ligaments. So these are the main ligaments that prevent the uterus from falling downward or backward. So the uterus, it's a very active organ actually. Its size and thickness changes with age, hormones and pregnancy. So during pregnancy, the myometrium expands and later contracts strongly during delivery. So the endometrium, it is the part that responds to the hormones and helps support early pregnancy. And here is a diagram showing you the uterus. So the diagram shows ovary, ovarian cortex, ovarian medulla. So fallopian tube, parts of fallopian tube, ampulla, infundibulum, isthmus and intramural. And layers of uterus, endometrium, myometrium. So the ligaments supporting the uterus, the cervix and vagina over here. And all parts work together to receive the egg, to allow the fertilization, to support the pregnancy and deliver the baby. So the secondary supports of the uterus are the broad ligament, round ligament, pubocervical ligaments and strong pelvic connective tissue. So next part is vagina. So what is vagina? It is a fibromuscular, which is nothing but combination of muscle and fibrous tissue canal that connects the cervix, which is the lower part of the uterus, to the external genitalia called as vulva. So this is known as the birth canal during delivery. So what is the length of the vagina? 7 to 9 centimeter long. So this can stretch widely during the intercourse and childbirth because of its elastic tissue. So what is the position? It lies between two important organs in front of the rectum and behind the bladder and urethra. So it acts like a soft passage located centrally in the pelvis. So now what are the functions of the vagina? It acts as a birth canal, like it allows the baby to pass out during the delivery. It acts as a menstrual passage, like a menstrual blood flows out through it. So it also helps during intercourse, like it receives the penis during the sexual activity, and it also involves in a defense, like it has the acidic pH which is maintained by lactobacilli bacteria. It prevents the infections. Okay. So these are functions of the vagina and structure of the vaginal wall. So the vagina has three layers. Mucosa, which is the inner lining. Stratified, it is made up of stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So this mucosa, it protects the vagina against the friction. It has folds which allow the stretching. It contains no glands, like lubrication mainly comes from cervical mucus and transudation, which is the fluid seeping through the walls. And the second layer is muscular layer, which is a smooth muscle. Like it allows the expansion and contraction. It also helps during the childbirth to open and stretch. And adventitia, it is the outer layer which is made up of the connective tissue. Like it anchors the vagina to the surrounding organs. It provides a structural support. So here is a diagram of the vagina which shows the external genitalia. You can see the mons pubis, which is a fatty area over the pubic bone, and clitoris and clitoral hood. These are the sensitive erectile tissue, labia majora and labia minora. It's the outer and inner skin folds. Urethral opening, which is where urine comes out, and you also have this vaginal opening where it is the entrance to the vagina. So you can also see the vaginal wall layers, mucosa and smooth muscle, which is the middle tissue, middle layer, and connective tissue is also called as the adventitia, which is the outer layer. So next is external female genitalia, is also called as vulva. So the vulva is named for all the external female genital structures. So it includes everything you can see on the outside. So what is mons pubis? It includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, vestibule, clitoris and hymen. So mons pubis, it is a soft fatty mound located above the pubic bone. It is covered with the pubic hair after the puberty. So what is the function of the mons pubis? It acts like a cushion to protect the underlying bones during the movement and intercourse. And labia majora. It is a two large outer skin folds. It contains fat, sweat glands and sebaceous glands. So it is covered with the hair and the outer surface. So next is labia minora. It is a thin, hairless inner folds of the skin. So it is much more delicate than the labia majora. It helps to enclose and protect the vestibule. It is rich in the nerve endings which are sensitive. And next to labia minora, it is vestibule. So this is a space inside the labia minora containing the several openings. It has the urethral opening where the urine exists. It has the vaginal opening. It is the entry to vagina and Bartholin glands openings which secretes the mucus for lubrication, as well as Skin's glands openings near urethra. It also helps with the lubrication. And clitoris, it is a small highly sensitive erectile organ. So clitoris, it is homologous to the male penis, same as the embryological origin. So what are the parts of the clitoris? Glans, body and crura. So crura, these are the two long internal legs that attach to the pubic bone. So the main function of clitoris is sexual arousal and as well as pleasure. So hymen. Hymen, it is a thin mucous membrane partly covering the vaginal opening. So it is an elastic, delicate and varies greatly among the individuals. It can tear during the first intercourse, physical activity and by also tampon use. So here is a diagram of the vulva. You can see the mons pubis, fatty area with the pubic hair, and clitoris, clitoral hood. It protects the fold and sensitive organ. So labia majora, it is the outer lips, labia minora, inner lips. So you have urethral opening through which urine exits here and vaginal opening which is entrance to the vagina. So hymen over here, it's a thin tissue around the vaginal opening. And you have anus which is end of the digestive tract. So next part is perineum. So what is perineum? It is a diamond-shaped area which is located below the pelvic diaphragm between the thighs. So it is a region you can see between the pubic bone and coccyx. So why it is important? Because it contains the openings of the important structures like vulva and anus. It supports the pelvic organs. It is also commonly affected during childbirth like perineal tears. So perineum, it is divided into two triangles. The urogenital triangle, which is the front part, and anal triangle, which is the back part. So urogenital triangle, it contains the vulva, like it involves both the labia, clitoris, vaginal opening, urethral opening, hymen, everything. So in females, this area is involved in urination, sexual function, and as well as childbirth. So coming to anal triangle, it contains the anal canal and anus. So it is important for defecation and continence. So this is about the perineum and the breast. Breasts are the accessory reproductive organs. So meaning this breast, they help in reproduction by providing milk for newborns, but they are not essential for pregnancy itself. So what is the anatomy of the breast? So breasts are actually highly specialized sweat glands which are adapted to produce the milk. So it has 50 to 20 lobes like orange slices. So each breast has 50 to 20 lobes arranged like spokes of a wheel. Spokes of a wheel which is arranged in a radial pattern. So each lobe, they contains many lobules that make milk. So lactiferous ducts, which is called as nipple. So this lactiferous ducts, this is milk produced in these lobules travels through these ducts. So these ducts, they widen into lactiferous sinuses near the nipple. So during breastfeeding, milk is released from the nipple through these ducts. And these are supported by the Cooper's ligaments. So what are these ligaments? They are the fibrous bands that run through the breast. So they support the breast, keeping it lifted. So with age or repeated stretching, ligaments loosen and breast sagging. So next is areola and nipple. You can see in this picture, this is the areola. So this is a dark colored circle around the nipple. So this contains glands that lubricate the nipple during the breastfeeding. And nipple, it is a central projection with openings of the milk ducts. So next is the fat and connective tissue, adipose tissue and connective tissue. Over here you can see here a clear picture at the right side and the left side. So this is a large part of the breast is adipose tissue. So fat determines the size of the breast, not milk producing capacity. So now how is blood supplied to the breast? Breast receives blood mainly from the internal thoracic artery, which is also called as the internal mammary artery. So these arteries, they also make sure breast tissue gets enough oxygen and nutrients. So this is a job done by the lateral thoracic artery. And in this picture, you can see the breast lobes and lobules, which are the milk producing units, lactiferous ducts and sinuses, which are the milk pathways, and areola and nipple. And here you can see the pectoral muscles, which are located behind the breast, and corpus ligaments, which are the supporting structures. So this is about the parts of the woman reproductive system, like female reproductive system. So this is for today's session. I hope this session has helped you. So in the next session, you will be able to learn about the physiology of the female reproductive system. Thank you.